What I'm about to show you is honestly a little scary. Not because it's complicated, but because of how powerful AI has become. In the next 30 minutes, you'll learn how to use AI better than 90% of sellers. How to build AI agents and automations that will save you and your team 10, 15, or maybe even 20 hours every week. I've been in the Amazon space nearly 10 years, and I can tell you that this is something we've all been waiting for. So let's dive in. We are going to cover 3 different AI agents, starting from the simplest one you can implement right away, all the way to a complex, powerful AI automation. I will explain everything in detail so you can follow along to build this in your own business. But before we dive into these specific builds, I would like to clarify the terminology we are going to use and the theory behind this. Don't worry, I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but it's very important that we are on the same page and you understand these concepts. So let's spend 2 or 3 minutes on this. First of all, you've probably used ChatGPT or Claude, your large language model. But if you are like me, the first time you used it, you probably had this thought like, what if this could actually know what's going on in my business? What if this could actually go and do tasks for me, not just give me text or images? And what if it could be also proactive to do things without me even asking for it? So this is where AI agents come in. It is essentially a large language model like your Claude or ChatGPT, which has the power to take action. It has the right tools and the right data to make the decisions, and it's also guided by a clear job description. But when we talk about giving tools to our AI so it can become an AI agent, let me explain it like this, right? Whenever we use tools such as your Seller Central or your Asana, your task management, whatever that is, we are using a graphic user interface to interact with the code that powers the app, right? We don't want to write code, to create a new task in your task management. You simply click a button. That's what we do. That's what we like to do. But when it comes to your large language model like ChatGPT or Claude, they can do it, but they don't really like it, right? They are not good at it, and it's quite clunky for them to interact with a tool using the graphic user interface that was made for humans. Of course, for this purpose, there are APIs, application programming interface. And this is nothing new. This was created so two different softwares can essentially communicate with each other using the code, right? So it's one program using the tools and data of another. So we can give our large language model like ChatGPT the APIs to call the tools. Let's say in our Asana, it can create tasks, it can create comments, and that's how we give the tools to our AI. But the issue is that every single software, whether it's Notion, Seller Central, Asana, Toggle, whatever you use, Slack, all of them have their own API documentation where every single thing you want to do to create a task, leave a comment, requires a different API call, which is a code. And of course, the large language model like ChatGPT doesn't know these. We need to program it so it can do all of these things, which is very, very tedious. It is possible and it works, but it's very tedious to do this for multiple softwares, for multiple different tools, right? And that is why MCP is the future. That is the Model Context Protocol. It is a standardized way to give the tools to our large language models. Because programming the APIs for every single tool, that just takes too much time. And to be honest, I don't really understand how to do this for every single thing in my ChatGPT or Claude, right? So for this purpose, an MCP was created, which is essentially a server where your large language model is connected to this MCP server, and he can just talk to it and explain what he needs while the server is taking care of the API calls, essentially executing the tasks in that particular tool. So the large language model can talk to the MCP server of, let's say, Asana, and he can tell it that he wants to create a task or leave a comment, and the MCP server handles the API call, which of course is the code, and we can then see that in our Asana, he performed an action. So the way we can think about this is that our MCP, the MCP servers, are essentially the user interface for our large language models, right? So this is the key understanding here, why the MCP servers are so powerful, because we can easily give a big toolkit for each of our softwares we use to our large language model. And he can then do the things we do in that particular software. And if we take a look at, let's say Claude, right? They call these connectors, but these are official MCP servers we can connect our large language model to, right? We are starting with the basics, right? So it's possible that you've already used this, but it's important to understand all of this because we will build on this knowledge. So bear with me. When we take a look at, let's say, one of the connectors, which is Notion right here, you can see all of these tools, and each of these tools is essentially the API call, but we don't need to care about the code. We essentially just press one button in Claude to connect into our Notion, and the Claude then has the ability to do all of these things in our Notion, to search, create pages, update pages, move pages, everything you can do basically in your Notion. And this applies to many, many other softwares, right? So if you go to your connectors, and don't worry, we will set everything up live in this video, many, many connectors for different tools, right? For different softwares. You have Asana, Canva, you have just so many of these officially in Claude. Of course, I'm talking about Claude, but this is exactly possible to do in ChatGPT. They don't have that many official ones yet, but there are new popping out all the time. And as I teach you in this video, you will be able to do everything in ChatGPT or Claude, whatever you prefer. In ChatGPT, you would go into your apps and connectors, activate the developer mode, and then you are able to connect all of this as well. And we will now explain how all of this works. So now we will go to specific scenario where we will teach our AI, our Claude, to interact with many different apps in order to achieve a specific objective. So in this scenario, I will guide you through this. Let's say you need to prepare for a meeting with the graphic designer, right? You have a product launch of a new product. You have a meeting with your designer in 1 hour. You forgot to prepare, and you need to brief him. All of the information is scattered. Something is in Gmail, something on Google Drive. There are some notes in Notion, and you simply don't have the time to do that manually. And why would you, right, when you have AI? I want to stress out that all of this I'm about to show you is done live, right? So if something happens, my PC explodes, right? That's what can happen here, but we will do this. And if something goes wrong, you will actually see how relatively easy it is to fix everything. So what we want to do is to first of all set up these MCPs, the connectors, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open my Claude here. So let me just put this on the side. And here I logged into my Claude. For these connectors, you are going to need a premium account, so you can set it up. Then we will go here into the settings, right? There's my system prompt and everything, and I will go simply into connectors. And as you can see, we are now here, Google Drive, Gmail, Asana, Notion. If you cannot find it, you will find here a list of all of the official ones, connectors here that are very, very easy to set up. And now I'm going to connect to all of these: Gmail, Google Drive, Notion, Asana. What this means is that we are giving Claude access to these tools so we can then do everything I described to prepare for the meeting and to access all of this. So let me now set this up. And as you can see, connecting the MCP to these official ones is very easy. I'm just gonna log into my Google, just share the permissions, and we'll continue. And now we will wait for it to load. Now it's connected, right? As easy as a few clicks. Now I'm going to continue, do Gmail, Notion, and Asana. So let's do it now. So now we are ready. We connected our Google Drive, Gmail, Asana, Notion. It is literally just a few clicks to do this. That's why we are starting here, because it's the easiest way to set up these official MCPs. And now we are ready to actually prepare for the meeting, right? This example, this scenario, the purpose is to show you how it can interact with many different tools and basically pull everything you need. So I will hop in here and start a new chat with Claude. And if you click here, you will then see that it has access to these tools, right? Web search, of course, that's basic, but then we also have the Google Drive, Gmail. We can potentially connect our Google Calendar, right? Asana and Notion. And when you click here, you can see all of the things that it can do within that particular tool. So let's begin. First of all, we know that somewhere in our email, there are emails from our supplier about the product specifications, right? We want to launch this product. I don't remember the size of the box. I don't remember anything, to be honest. So I'm just gonna ask Claude to fetch this for me. All right, so we asked for the first step, which was extracting product specifications from email. So as you can see, I just wrote a simple prompt. Ideally, I would spend a little bit more time trying to be more specific, but it still works in this example. You know, we're launching new product, martini glasses set of 4, getting ready for a meeting with my graphic designer. He will be getting information, fetch the details, blah, blah. First of all, go to my Gmail and check for all emails from our suppliers regarding martini glasses. There should be our product specs somewhere. As you can see, he searches, you know, he found 2 emails. Packaging, final product specs for Q4 launch. So he found it. I've grabbed the product specification and packaging details from your supplier emails. Beautiful. So now we can go, and our next step is to find competitor analysis data on our Google Drive, right? We gathered reviews from our competitors, and now we want the insights that will be important when creating our listings. Again, I don't know where that file is. I don't have the insights. So let me just ask and see what Claude will find. Now, we of course cut in this video, so you don't have to wait for the AI to perform the steps, because it usually takes around a minute or 2 to do this. But the next step to find the competitor analysis on our Google Drive, you know, now go to my Google Drive and check the product development folder. That's what I remembered. It's there. And once you find it, analyze the product reviews from the document. The insights will help us position our product better, targeting their weak points. So of course, you can see what he actually does, right? He's searching, he found the product development folder, he finds the file, you know, he fetches the file, and then he already analyzed the reviews in the file to find the weak points, right? So now we have it, he has the information. So the third step is actually, we had a call in this example with our brand manager, talking about the strategy for this product that will also be relevant. And now I want to ask Claude to go to Notion, where I know that there is a transcript of the call, and ask him to just summarize the key points from the strategy that might be relevant for the graphic designer. So I'm gonna send the prompt and see what happens. All right, so now we ask him to go to Notion, find meetings. We had a meeting with our brand manager about the strategy, find the document, read it, and remember relevant information for the graphic designer. So as you can see, he connects to Notion, finds the right database, finds the right document, reads it, remembers the detail. And so you can see that I'm not making stuff up. There is an email, you know, there are multiple emails about the product specifications. There is a document on the Google Drive, and we have also in our Notion database, there is a transcript, right? So he actually reads the transcript. As you can see, it's just a transcript. He reads it and identifies the key information from that. So perfect. Now, we kind of want to gather everything into a brief. We want him to create, you know, just some PDF. We can then show to the graphic designer some one-pager. So I would ask for him to create it. So we will use it during the call with our graphic designer. As you can see, we ask him to generate a simple one-page PDF where we summarize the product specs and essential information for the graphic designer. And this is why I love Claude, because he's able to create these files. You know, it's a PDF I can download and continue sharing. Right here. So let's take a look at it. Well, it's not one page, but still pretty good, right? We have the information, the product specs, everything that's important for the graphic designer, the brand direction that came from the meeting, the target customers we talked about, competitor weak points to address that came from the reviews, and design deliverables needed. And this is beautiful because he already kind of knows what let me, if I can zoom in, just read it to you. The design deliverables, he understands Amazon listings without me explaining. Like, we will talk about systems prompts and everything, but he knows we need main image, lifestyle images, infographic, A+. He specifies the deliverables without me explaining this, and it's perfect. He understands Amazon better than most sellers, I guess. Okay, so now we have everything we need. We just need to put it together into an agenda in Notion, right? Because we want to get ready for the call, and we want to put it into Notion. So now I will send him the prompt to put everything together and help me prepare for the meeting. And lastly, we ask him that we want to create the page in Notion so we can prepare for the call, as I mentioned. So as you can see, he went, finds the right database. He actually even looks up what other pages in the database look like, so he can, replicate the formatting. And then he creates the page in Notion. And if I go into the database right here, He creates it. He also, meeting purpose, brief Alex, graphic designer. Then we have the key documents. He links everything, the PDF, the competitor analysis file, so we can take a look at it. And the agenda, and of course it's very detailed. As I mentioned, he understands all of the context we shared, but he also understands pretty well without any other prompting, like what Amazon requires. Maybe there will be some small discrepancies, but at the end of the day, it is a huge, huge time saver, and here's key messages to visualize, rainforest stem prevents breakage. Now he's referring back to the negative reviews from our competitors. And he also creates like a timeline that we might agree on, questions for Alex and success criteria, all of this is here. And now I will show you what that would look like. Let's say the meeting just finished and we actually want to have a transcript here. We could have another setup to actually track the meetings. So we would have the data right here. I just created a transcript, what that could look like a meeting with the graphic designer. So I will copy it here, just put it here as a page. Of course, I wouldn't do it manually, but that's graphic designer meeting notes or transcript. So of course, this would be recorded on the call, but of course, I'm just demonstrating this, so we don't have a real transcript. But what we can then do, if the transcript is here, I can actually go, let's say after the call is finished, and I want him to go to Asana and create a task. So I would simply go, let's say I just start a new chat, and I will send him requests to find the meeting, everything that was discussed, and kind of push it into Asana as a task. So that would be the last tool in this demonstration. So now, as you can see, we asked him to essentially do two things. Go to my Notion, to my meeting database, find a transcript of a call with my graphic designer, Alex, read the transcript, clarify all the steps, and then push the task into Asana. So he does that, right? He goes to Notion, reads the transcript, identifies the key steps, and then he pushes that into Asana. He creates the task, and as you can see, sometimes he makes some mistakes, but he corrects himself. You don't have to tell him anything. And this took like 2-3 minutes, right? So you can just basically do this almost instantly, even multiple steps within one prompt. And if I then go into Asana, I can see that the task is here with the details. I could then ask him, to add the subtasks so we can track them accordingly with the deadlines. But of course, here you get the point. So now we covered the first category of the MCP servers. These official MCP connectors that are built-in integrations available directly in your Claude. You just find it in the list and you click a button. That's extremely easy. And of course, as we go, there will be more and more of these. But you might find that sometimes there are not these connectors for things that you would actually like to use. Maybe there's a tool or software you really want to use, but somehow it's not in the official connectors. So let me show you the next category. Official provider MCP servers. Those are official servers made by the tool providers that have a link, they are online, but they are simply not in Claude, they are not in the connector list, and you need to add them manually, which brings me to the second scenario. Let's say we want to do a competitor review analysis. We want to scrape reviews directly from our Claude, so we will need some website scraper to do that, and we will use Apify. And basically what we are trying to do is to scrape the reviews from Claude, let him analyze that, and then generate a nice report we can then share with our team and discuss further. So I chose Apify, and as I said, here if we go to the connectors and I would browse connectors, there is no such thing as Apify in these web connectors, which means that I have to do that manually. Right? So Apify is one of the website scrapers. So let me just open this full screen and we will go to Apify. The first thing you need to do is to actually set up your account, right? So Apify is website scraper. You can scrape many things, TikTok, Google Maps, Instagram, but also Amazon, right? You can scrape Amazon reviews. And so you will log into your account. Again, very simple login where we choose our account, and what we can do actually, they provide for free quite a lot of things we can do, even on the free tier, so that will be more than sufficient. and then set up our Apify MCP server, right? So we will go to MCP Apify, and as I said, this is an official MCP server for this particular tool, right? And I can find it here. This is a setup. Again, now I understand it. It might get a little bit intimidating, but don't worry, I will explain everything in detail. So what we are going to do is that we will add these actors, which essentially on Apify, those are the ways how we scrape specific things, right? We want to scrape Instagram, I would add Instagram, but I want to do Amazon review scraping. And I believe I liked this one, so I will save it, right? Now I have everything I need here. The scraper, I will scroll down and they generate a link. That's the most important thing, right? That is the link to the MCP server. As you can see, that is the endpoint to the integrations. So again, it's not intimidating, right? If we just copy this address, then I will hop back into my Claude. I will go add custom connector. I will go Apify MCP. I will add the URL, which already includes that particular actor, which is basically the way we scrape, Amazon. So we don't want anything else right now. So we will add this. And now I have it here. I need to click connect, which is basically the same thing we did before with Notion and so on. We just had to add the extra step of adding that URL, right? So I will choose me, allow access. And now it's active. So now we are good to go, right? As you can see, it was quite simple. It didn't hurt. And we are good to go. We connected to Claude. Took 30 seconds, right? Now, let's say in this scenario, we want to scrape reviews. In this case, I would probably create a custom project with a system prompt that to say, you are an Amazon review analyzer. Your job is to do X, Y, and Z. So you don't always have to refer back, with every single prompt. It's basically the same thing as in ChatGPT. You can create these projects, right? So you create a new project. But for this example, I'm not going to do that, right? I'm going to simply take the ASIN and ask if he can scrape it using the Apify MCP, and let's see what we will get. Okay, so I ask him to use the Apify MCP to scrape Amazon product reviews on the Amazon US. As I said, I would use probably a bit more comprehensive system prompt, but this still works. I gave him the ASIN, scrape and analyze all of the insights from reviews. I actually forgot to specify to use the specific actor I chose because I like that one the most. So I just then refreshed it and asked him the same thing. And as you can see, he used Apify, went to Amazon, got the results. Martini glasses, 340 reviews, 5 stars. What works, the problem, quick takeaway. All right. So as you can see, he gathered the key insights and he has the information. He has the reviews. And here I also said that we are going to generate a report, a nice dashboard, right? So let's see what we can do with Claude. So as we asked Claude to use the data he got from Apify, right? All of the reviews to create a nice interactive dashboard. So as you can see how he thinks about this, right? He goes back to Apify to download the full report, and then he starts working on a nice dashboard. So let me actually put this full screen because I really want you to see this. When you go view the dashboard, we have the data we just gathered in a nice interactive dashboard. Again, if we had the system prompt, we can unify this. So every single time it's the same, right? So we have top positive, main concerns. You can see the split of the reviews, reviews over time. Then we see, customer sentiment by aspect, the quality, appearance, size, sturdiness, thickness, and weight, especially the thickness, right? We talked about this. Review Explorer, it also gave us and it actually allows us to filter out the reviews. He downloaded as well, right? And it's an interactive dashboard. There are some key takeaways and so on. So we can definitely then play with this a bit, but now you can see the power of what we can actually do. Everything from Claude. We gave him the ability to scrape the reviews, create a dashboard, everything from one place. So Apify was an example of an official provider MCP server that's not in the connectors. Now we will talk about another one, which is an MCP gateway service. This is essentially a third-party platform that gives you access to some tools that they might not even have an official MCP server, right? For example, some of the smaller tools like let's say Amazon Seller Central, they do not have an official MCP yet. I assume there will be some in the future. But what we can do is we can actually use something like an MCP gateway service, for example, Pipedream, which I will show you right now, to get access to many different MCPs essentially through one thing, right? So if you go to something like Pipedream, Zapier does the same thing, but Pipedream is good. We will go to product, MCP. You will set up your account. You will log in. So I will go to continue with Google. We will log in. Again, you can use this for free. And now we have the MCP Pipedream. We see all of the MCPs that are there. And as you can see, there are a lot of tools compared to the connectors we had. 2,900 to be specific, compared to like 50 we currently have in Claude, right? So these are, some of them might be official, but actually here, it's these are developed by Pipedream, right? Those are the custom ones they developed for some of these tools. So let's say the one for Notion might be different from the official one, right? But what we can do then, if we want to connect, let's say Slack, so you search for Slack, you click on it and you will see the available tools, what this particular MCP, remember the tools, what it can do. And as you can see, this one can do a lot of things. It can do pretty much everything we need. And if you would search for, Slack MCP, you might find that some of these, actually with Slack, I do not know right now, but some of these simply do not have an official one. So what you can then do is that as we use the Apify URL, you first go to Pipedream, you connect the accounts you want. So if I would go to, connect Slack, I just continue, connect it, whether it's, authorization of the account or the API key. It's very simple. And then I would be using this one link to access multiple other ones, right? So this is the gateway. You connect one, you get access to many tools, right? So as they say here, 10,000 tools, right? 2,800 APIs, 10,000 tools. So as you can see, then you have one link. You can connect Google Sheets, Google Calendar, Shopify, anything you can think of. And of course, even our favorite, Amazon. So if we search, for example, for a selling partner, you will find that there might be some for Seller Central. Of course, these ones, as I said, are not official, so they might be a bit limited, but eventually they get better and better. And there are actually better ways to do this. I will explain in the third scenario, but as you can see, there are some available tools, get order details, generate sales and inventory report. So if I would connect this with my account, use this URL, to add it to my Claude as I did with Apify, I would get access to these tools. So I can just call my sales reports through Claude and tell him, put it in a nice dashboard, compare it with previous month, go to my Google Drive, and you start combining all of these things into something extremely valuable, right? So this is Pipedream gateway. But as I said, it's likely that more and more of these tool providers will develop their own official MCP servers. So it's the same like Apify, or even the official Claude connectors. So you just go click, 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 and you are good to go. So now we have the gateway out of the way, and we are getting into the third scenario. And this one is the most advanced. I don't want you to get intimidated. Just follow the steps, right? It's relatively easy if you follow this step by step. Plus, if you have Claude by your side, he will explain everything you need to do that, right? So if you can follow instructions, you will be able to set this up. We are getting into community MCP servers. Community MCP servers are servers that are not official, but people shared them on GitHub, where you can essentially use the code of the MCP server and host it on your own computer. It all sounds a bit maybe intimidating, but don't worry, I will explain everything in detail. Because in scenario 3, we want to take it up a notch, right? What we want to do is to set up a proper automation, because what we've done so far, it's amazing, but still it's very reactive, right? We just need to send message to get something. What if we want this to happen without our prompt, right? Without us on a regular basis? We need to set up an automation. And for this, we can use N8N. But if you are like me, building something like this is, quite scary. I don't know where to begin. And what if I could use Claude to actually build this for me? What if I could give him access to N8N to do this for me? And of course, why I'm showing this, you can do that. So we will do two things. We will demonstrate two things. Setting up a self-hosted MCP server. In this example, it will be N8N. And I will also show you how Claude then can use the N8N MCP server to generate an automation, specifically an automation to monitor your competitor prices, daily across multiple Amazon listings. I want to build a custom automation that tracks prices, that exchanges, and alerts me when someone undercuts us, right? That would be a beautiful, very useful automation we can set up. Of course, you can then create whatever you want, but this one would be, I believe, useful to most people. So if we go to Pipedream, let's say we would want to do it through Pipedream, right? We said that we can use this gateway, so why wouldn't we do this? Why even talk about self-hosted? N8N is right here, right? No. If I take a look at available tools, there are no available tools for this app yet because N8N is quite complicated and they are simply not on Pipedream. There is not a good server. The best server, if I actually search, there is an N8N MCP, which is very well rated and works very well. It's not official. Someone, programmed it himself and he's now sharing the code on GitHub. So if I go here, he's sharing everything right here. He tells you how to set it up. And again, might be a bit intimidating to do this. You don't know where to begin. But if you follow the guide, it's relatively simple. And I will show you in this video how to do all of this. And then your Claude will unlock this amazing thing, work with N8N. But that's not just the sole purpose. You will unlock the ability to self-host MCP servers, which will then basically give you the ability to control whatever you want and not rely on official MCP servers that might not be as good or they might not be even available at all, right? And this is how you get ahead of the curve because this is the stuff that no one is going to do, right? And we will then talk about, building your own MCP server as well. But in this case, we are going to use something that someone else built. So for this, what we need to do is we need to use Claude Desktop. It doesn't work with the web app if you are self-hosting it, right? So you will just go to Claude AI/download and you would download the desktop app. There is nothing special about it, right? You just download Windows or Mac OS and you are good to go. The next thing is to set up your self-hosted N8N MCP server. So first of all, this guy who created this basically did all the heavy lifting for us. So as you can see, there is a prerequisite to have Node.js. So you would click on the link here. And what you're gonna do, don't worry about it, just download it, install it, right? So if you're Windows or Mac, right? So I already did this. You would download this file, right? And install this that will allow you to then self-host the server, right? So as you can see, you just download it, install it, nothing special about it. What then you'll do if you are on Windows, to be honest, on Mac, it will be slightly different, but I don't have Mac, so you will have to find this step somewhere else. But if we go to the command prompt and run it as an administrator on your computer, and you just run this code he has here. So I will click here to copy, right? And enter. And now my MCP server for N8N is running. That's it. Now I have to connect it to Claude, right? So just, I will probably write it in the description. If you have Mac, it will be slightly different, but at the end of the day, it's exactly the same thing, right? You install Node.js, you run this code, it will download the code that's on GitHub, essentially, and runs the server, the MCP server, with all of this code behind it, so you can start using it. Now my server is running here, server startup completed. And now I can go to my Claude and I need to connect the Claude and give him the ability to actually get access to this MCP server. And as you can see, it's just this configuration here. Again, it's a code. I don't know what it means, but I don't care because it's simple to put it in there, right? What I will need is two things. My N8N API URL, which is basically my N8N instance. In order to do this, you will need the premium N8N account, but that's kind of understandable, right? So if I go back here, I will go to N8N. This is my, right here, this would be the instance, just the URL basically you get, and then the API key. And I will also show you how to get the API key from N8N. So if I go back here and go ahead and turn on Claude, so now I'm in the desktop app, right? It's important. It's exactly the same, just gives us the ability to go to settings and then go to the developer, which we cannot do, right? As you can see, local MCP servers, add and manage MCP servers that you are working on. So I will go edit config. Again, very simple, just, slow down the video, watch it a few times if you need to. You go edit config. Now it finds the Claude desktop config JSON. Right click and you edit it in your notepad so you can edit the code. And as you can see, currently it's empty. There's nothing because I don't have any local MCP servers. But the smart guy here, he tells me to use this full configuration. So I'll go copy back to my notepad and I will copy all of this there. Right? Simple. Now we go to API URL. As I mentioned, we need, where is it here? We need the N8N instance. So that would be my website link. So I will just replace it. Be careful not to mess this up. So I will give the instance here. And now we need the API key, which is secret. You shouldn't show it anywhere. So we will probably blur it here. But if you go to your N8N, your account, this is your dashboard, you go to settings, N8N API, create new API key, and expiration, I don't want this to expire, and I will say Claude desktop 3, and now we will save it, and my API key will appear. We will blur it. So here I will just click to copy. Now I have the API key. I will go here, highlight it, and copy the API key there. All right, make sure that's the whole code. Save this file. All right, I'm basically done with this. Then I go back to Claude and I need to turn it off. All right, so wish me luck that everything works as intended. Now I turned it off and I need to turn it on again. And now when I go to settings and I go back to the developer, you can see N8N MCP running. We are connected to our MCP server that is self-hosted, running on my own computer. So just to check, I can then go ahead and say, use the N8N MCP server to do a health check, just to see that the connection is running well, and we are good to go. It's healthy, it's connected, everything works as intended. So now, let me switch back to my notes here. We connected the MCP server, and some of these MCP servers that are a little bit more complex, like N8N, the developer who built this, he also provides a system prompt, right? We talked about this, creating a project with a system prompt to make it even more powerful. So the AI knows how to interact with the MCP server because it's so complex. There are so many tools. So you can then copy this system prompt, Cloud Project Setup. I copy this system prompt and I would go to projects, and I already did this, N8N workflow generator, and you go into instructions and you copy this. So he knows how to act, he knows how to do all of these things, how to interact with the MCP server. And I already did this, right? That makes it that much more powerful. Very, very simple to copy it there. And now if I go here, basically the next step would be to explain Claude what kind of workflow we want. And here you want to provide a lot of detail. You want to be, as descriptive as possible so it can be accurate. But here, I already did this because it actually takes a little bit of time, so I can just show you the final result. So what I did, as we talked about this, that we want a competitor price tracking. So I used this project, the N8N workflow generator, and wrote this very simply. As I said, you should probably include more detail so it's more accurate. But I just said, help me create a simple N8N automation for competitor price tracking on Amazon. It runs daily, uses Apify to scrape US Amazon for our top 5 competitors. If it tracks their prices day by day in a Google spreadsheet, if there's a price change, we will get notified on Slack. So it goes and does all of these things. It takes a little bit of time. And by the way, highly recommended to use the other model Opus for this, the smarter one, for complex challenges, because it is a lot of work for Claude and it will eat your tokens for the day, but it is definitely worth it because it saves so much time. That he creates this, right? He created the workflow. I will show it to you. And he also, because the system prompt is super smart, he also prepares a setup guide. It literally tells us what we need to do to finalize the workflow, because we need to connect the accounts, and it's still quite intimidating, but he creates this beautiful step-by-step document that tells us how to finalize the workflow to make it, to deploy it into our business. Required accounts, Google Sheet setup. He even tells you what the Google Sheet should look like. Just copy paste. Price history, he tells you Epify store, search for Amazon Product Scraper, try for free. He tells you everything in here. It makes it so much easier. And so I have these instructions. And if I go back into my N8N and go into my workflows, this is the Amazon competitor price tracker he created. So now I have the full workflow. And as you can see, it's not finalized, because he tells me here how to finalize it, how to set everything up. But as you can see, it's not only the notes. He even formatted, what the message on Slack will look like. And when I'm looking at this, I wouldn't be able to write this. Like, I don't even know what's going on here. But if I follow the workflow, this would work, right? This would basically do the job if there are some tweaks required. Here, he has, the correct Epify scraper already linked. Everything is here. You just need to fill in the asins. It also knows that with the Epify scraper, you need to wait for the scraper to get results. So it asks the scraper, then it waits, and then it goes back to look up the data. I don't know how it knows that, but it knows. And get competitor asins. So he says your Google Sheet ID, right? And this really corresponds one-to-one with the document it created here. So as you can see, it even makes it easier to actually create your own MCP server, create your own automations. So if we just recap, we were able to generate a new workflow. We were able to set up our self-hosted MCP. We understand MCPs in general. And it unlocks so much with your Claude or ChatGPT that, as I promised you, you are now ahead of 90% of people. I talked to dozens and dozens of sellers, and I guarantee you, no one really is doing this, right? I want to stress out that with the N8N, it's not perfect. You still need to learn, to utilize it fully. Takes a lot of usage, as I mentioned. It eats up the tokens, but extremely powerful. And a little cherry on top, which is basically the most advanced thing here, is that you can build your own MCP servers and host them online. Right? So you can create your own specifically for your business, connect all of the tools, and essentially create your own MCP gateway with all MCP servers. And that's what we are doing right now and experimenting with that, because you can then pretty much create whatever you need and plug in your Claude ChatGPT into it to do incredible things. So I hope you found this helpful. If you've learned something and you want to continue learning, we are actually gathering all of the resources, the tools we use, the videos we watch, the books we read, everything we use to learn this, put into one database. And you can get access to it. I will put a link in the description so you can get access to my best resources and basically everything I used and studied to learn how to do all of this. So get the link, it's free, you will get access to it. And that's it from me for today. If you want to ever talk about AI agents, I'm always happy to connect. And that's it. I'll see you next week. Bye.